Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the insiders. And this week we're going to take a look at the question of whether or not this rural-suburban divide or rural-urban divide we've seen in Wisconsin is actually growing stronger in Wisconsin politics. The results from the election showed that the red counties got redder and the blue counties got bluer. What do you think, Chuck?
I think that there is a divide, which is looks like it's being even more strongly reinforced. I think will continue. But the one distinction I would make in Scott's question there is that actually the red counties and the suburbs were getting pinker. And what's happening is that there are only two areas of growth in the state, and that's the urban areas and the suburban areas. Then there's a huge area of actual shrinkage or non-growth, and that's in the rural areas. That's a big problem for Republicans moving forward in terms of statewide elections. Now, with regard to redistricting and how it works in that circumstance, the fact that we are coming up on redistricting now, Democrats will be concentrated in a much closer area, and that will make it more challenging. But overall, I think Democrats would take that trade. But we don't want to give up on rural areas. And what's amazing to me is actually the Democratic message is actually much stronger for rural Wisconsin. We want to help people with health insurance. And these are people like farmers who aren't part of a group. They need government to help make sure health insurance is fair. We are the ones who want to do rural broadband. Remember when Scott Walker turned down $40-some million from the federal government to increase rural broadband? We're the ones who want to make sure the public education system is strong. They love their public education system in rural Wisconsin. In fact, it's the Friday night thing. Everybody goes to the football game or the basketball game. And now even a lot of them go to a hockey game. So the message that Democrats have is really good, but somehow it's not breaking through. And I think there is something about what Kathy Kramer says, the politics of resentment. Democrats somehow have to break through. And I think you need people like Brad Pfaff, who won his state Senate seat in rural Wisconsin. You need people like him to be able to help deliver the message, a messenger that they trust. But it's a real challenge for Democrats. And I think a guy like Ben Wickler and the team over at the Dem Party that they have over there now will address it.
Well, I do think that the rural-suburban divide is growing, but I think there are a lot of people out there perhaps being a little too sweeping in their generalizations. Chuck, you're right, and the suburbs has gone from deep red to perhaps closer to pink, but it's in particular suburbs. It is in the highest income, highest educated suburbs. It's Mequon, it's Elm Grove, it's River Hills. It's not other suburbs like Greendale, Greenfield, South Milwaukee, Brookfield. Those places still are hanging in there for the Republican ticket. So it's the really high-end folks who have been unwilling, I think, to continue to support Republicans, at least at the national level. In the rural areas, it's really just astonishing what has been happening, and perhaps no better spot to see that than in the two western corners of the state. In southwestern Wisconsin, you saw Todd Novak, a Republican in a seat that is overwhelmingly Democrat and that was won by Joe Biden, win again for the legislature and by his largest margin ever, a whopping 4 percentage points. And then in the northwest corner of the state, where the Republicans originally thought they were going to have some prospects, but because of the onslaught of Democratic money, they didn't put any money in to the seats that are in Superior and Ashland and Bayfield. And one of those was decided by just over 100 votes in Superior. That used to be the most reliably Democratic assembly seat outside of southeastern Wisconsin and Madison. It's just astonishing to think that that seat is essentially now a 50-50 seat and is headed apparently towards the Republican column.
I think that whatever movement there has been in rural areas, I mean, it's hit this, you're going to see that this will be the high water mark. And I think it has a combination of things. The Trump phenomenon in a negative way, I think, accelerated Republican gains in the rural area. I don't think they're going to go any farther than they have now. I think Democrats have to do a good job of communicating out there in order to make sure that people understand that Democrats are on their side. To the idea that a billionaire who doesn't pay taxes is on your side and who really only gave tax breaks to the wealthiest of the wealthy, that somehow he's on your side. That doesn't jibe with the facts. But votes out there aren't based oftentimes on the facts, as we've talked about. They're based on emotion. And what we have to do is we have to get not only the factual argument, but the emotional argument back on our side. With Donald Trump out of the picture, I think that will be something that will happen. And I think Republicans realize, unlike Donald Trump, they cannot double down on a losing strategy like saying there's no coronavirus. Republicans will move away from Donald Trump. And that exit, I think, will help Democrats and also, in many ways, help the Republican Party.
So if the Democrats have a messaging problem in rural Wisconsin, I think the Republicans have a candidate problem in the suburban areas. Way too many men running for office and not enough women running for office, not enough candidates of color. You saw them break through, though, where we had Republican women running. They generally did better. And we elected the first African-American Republican to the Wisconsin State Senate. So I think we need to do a better job at candidate selection and recruitment in the suburbs.
I think that's a fair analysis, but I do think that overall, long term, the changes that are happening out there are going to be beneficial to Democrats, certainly in terms of statewide races. Even though they're close right now, I think you're going to continue to see a progression of statewide races in favor just slightly more of Democrats as we move ahead.
Well, it's been 20 years and we're still a 50-50 state. I think that's going to continue in a trend here in Wisconsin. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you next time.